We're kicking off today with the 2024 Royal Rumble event, and there's been plenty of speculation as to who will be leaving Tropicana-Field with a title shot at WrestleMania 40. This year, Cody Rhodes won the Men's Rumble match from the number 30 position, and judging by recent promotional material, the American Nightmare could be doing it again. Recently, WWE revealed its promotional banner for their Road to WrestleMania series of live events, and not only does Rhodes appear on the banner, he's the only superstar who does. WWE clearly wants the fans thinking of Rhodes on the road to WrestleMania, so it's understandable why some fans see this image as a potential spoiler that Rhodes will win the Rumble match. From the moment Cody lost at WrestleMania 39, fans have speculated his big win over Roman Reigns would come at WrestleMania 40, ending the Tribal Chief's historic run at the milestone event. For balance, we should point out that no WWE insider has confirmed plans for Rhodes to win the Rumble, and this banner should not be seen as hard proof of WWE's booking decisions. WWE has plenty of superstars who'd benefit from winning the Men's Rumble match, with some calling Gunther a favorite in the match given his record-breaking performance this year. But what do you think? Is the 2024 Men's Rumble Cody's to lose, or is someone else going to ruin the story of the American Nightmare? Sound off in the comments below. During this week's NXT, Tiffany Stratton defeated Fallon Henley to earn a spot in the Women's Iron Survivor Challenge, but that match also saw a major problem. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Brian Alvarez said that Henley suffered a concussion during the match, and it was when she took Stratton's prettiest moonsault ever finisher. Henley thought she was in the wrong position and moved her body slightly south before Stratton connected, which led to Tiffany landing on her face, causing the concussion. Henley isn't the only superstar who has been rocked recently, as it was during Raw that Ricochet suffered a concussion during the fatal four-way match he was part of. This situation led to Ricochet kicking out when he shouldn't have, meaning the match didn't have two winners as first planned, as it was The Miz and Ivar who should have both won. Instead, it was only The Miz who won, and he will face Ivar on next week's Raw, and it was explained that Ricochet is under concussion protocol and won't be competing until he passes all tests. Concussions in wrestling are very serious business, but they weren't always treated this way, and we are wishing the best to Henley and Ricochet after these recent setbacks. It was earlier this month that the Creed brothers alongside Ivy Nile were called up to the main roster, and since then, the former NXT Tag Team Champions are 2-0 on Raw. The Creeds have already impressed on the red brand, but now Julius Creed is looking to the future and a possible MMA fight. During Fightful's backstage report, Sean Ross Sapp noted that Creed is something of a dark horse when looking at future major stars, and he hopes to have a fight, potentially in the UFC. Creed has made this clear to people who have fought in the UFC, and with UFC and WWE now under the TKO umbrella, having a superstar compete in the octagon is more likely than ever before. Whether that means Creed gets his fight one day, that remains to be seen, but don't be surprised if we someday see one of Raw's newest acquisitions step foot in the cage. Over the past year or so, WWE has undergone some dramatic changes, with the majority of which being seen as for the better by fans. With Vince McMahon out of creative, we're seeing longer matches, more cohesive storylines, and talent get bigger opportunities, and the attitude backstage is also very positive. During his backstage report, Sean Ross Sapp said he hasn't heard of any backstage problems over the past year and a half, and there hasn't been any fights or big verbal disagreements behind the scenes. Superstars aren't being passive-aggressive toward each other, and it was said that the last time someone had significant heat backstage was Charlie Caruso in 2021. WWE's positive vibe backstage seems even better when you compare it to the chaotic scenes we've seen over in AEW over the past year, including multiple backstage fights and talent suspensions. We're sure that if backstage issues do happen, they'll surely make it into the mainstream, but for now, those in WWE are focused on doing their jobs and not stirring up backstage drama. One name who is part of the WWE roster once more is Nia Jax, who returned not too long ago after close to 2 years after her release. In his report, Sapp was asked about Jax's return and how the roster feels about her, especially after her anti-vaccine comments that she has made in the past. While Sapp said he did receive some eye rolls from talent when he asked about Jax's comments, one talent did credit Jax, saying she's been working hard and has been in better shape since returning. Jax has also not injured anyone since she's returned, which is another feather in her cap, so while some may not appreciate her comments on vaccines, Jax is at least impressing with what matters in the ring. For decades, WWE pay-per-views always happened on Sunday nights, but when WWE rebranded these shows as premium live events, several shows were moved to Saturday. Now these shows could be about to move again, as on Wrestling Observer Radio, it was noted that we could soon see major changes across the entire TKO business. The idea is that Super Weekends, a topic discussed during a recent TKO financial call, would see a WWE Premium Live event take place on Friday, UFC on Saturday, and Raw on Monday. Of course, having a PLE on a Friday could mean that Smackdown gets moved during those weeks, possibly to Thursday or even Wednesday, which would put the show at odds with AEW Dynamite. What TKO wants is to host WWE and UFC on back-to-back nights in the same city, and for some reason the company is against hosting on Saturday and Sunday, but rather Friday and Saturday. There's a lot of things still up in the air when it comes to TKO, and we'll only learn more as this new era continues, but we could be seeing Friday night premium live events in the near future. Over to AEW now, as the company's website can often be an indicator as to talent status, and if that is the case, one veteran of the promotion may be on her way out. On AEW's roster website, the Bunny's profile has been removed, suggesting she is no longer part of the organization, and all references to AEW have been removed from her Instagram bio. The Bunny's most recent match was a 6-woman tag during the September 6th episode of Rampage, and judging by these online moves, this may have been her last match as an AEW wrestler. Now, as the chairman of TKO Group Holdings, it's hardly a surprise that Vince McMahon has a lot of stock in the company, but recently the amount of stock he owns drastically decreased. In September, McMahon listed all his TKO stock for sale, leading to speculation of a second retirement, and while that hasn't happened, he has moved a ton of his shares in TKO. In a press release, TKO announced that McMahon has sold 8.4 million shares of Class A common stock, which is worth over $713 million. As part of the sale, TKO will purchase approximately $100 million of McMahon's shares in the company, and key figures including Ari Emanuel and Mark Shapiro have been interested in buying. Morgan Stanley & Co. LLC has been appointed as the book-running manager for these sales, and this represents a huge financial move within TKO, the biggest since the company was launched. For anyone excited that this means McMahon is gone, you don't want to celebrate just yet, as the 8.4 million shares sold is merely 30% or so of the 28 million shares in TKO McMahon started with. McMahon has had to adapt to not being the unquestionable head of a company, a role he was in for decades, and we'll have to see what other actions the TKO chairman takes in the months to come. In January, Impact Wrestling will go back to being known as TNA Wrestling, and if that announcement didn't catch your attention, the promotion's new merchandise certainly will. This week, Impact revealed new TNA Wrestling shirts, with some of the shirts featuring a message on the back simply reading, "We're back." Whether wrestling fans in 2023 want to have some profanity on the back of their shirt, we'll let the sales figures decide, but Impact is certainly gathering attention ahead of the TNA move next year. It was last month that Ric Flair debuted in AEW as Tony Khan's special gift to Sting, marking the first appearance of a multi-year deal, and now we know when his next appearance will be. Taking to Twitter, Flair revealed his involvement with AEW's All Elite Dunk and Shoot event that will take place next Thursday from the Inglewood High School in California. The event will help raise funds for Brotherhood Crusade, which helps fight health issues and poverty in southern LA, and we also know when Flair's next appearance at an AEW taping will be. The Nature Boy is being advertised for the first Collision of 2024 that will take place on January 6th from Flair's native Charlotte, North Carolina. There's still no word on what he'll be doing on the show, but his friend Sting is also on the poster for the show, and expect a huge response for the 16-time world champion when AEW comes to Charlotte. Earlier this year, a lawsuit was filed against both WWE and AEW, alleging that both companies stole the ideas of one Anthony Dwayne Wilson without giving him proper compensation. In a lengthy handwritten filing rife with spelling errors, Wilson alleged that WWE had stolen his creative ideas but gave no examples, and had far harsher words for AEW. Wilson alleged that he and the Bullet Club had collectively come up with the idea for AEW, but that the faction had stolen his plans and cut him without giving him credit as AEW's real creator. In the filing, Wilson requested $250 million, an apology, proper credit from WWE and AEW, as well as to be given control over AEW and, bizarrely, the return of all ships and plunder. Wilson had some big aspirations, but this week, Judge Benita Y. Pearson dismissed this case, citing that neither WWE nor AEW had been served within 90 days of the lawsuit's first filing. As the dismissal was without prejudice, Wilson could file the suit again if he wants to, but we can't see the self-professed real creator of AEW having any better luck if he tries this again. Recently, it was believed that the CW network would be inking a deal with the NWA, but it has since been confirmed that the CW will be the home of NXT starting next year. This is a major score for the CW as NXT has been on a roll over the past year, but they did at one point have their eyes on other promotions. House of Wrestling reports that other than the NWA and NXT, the CW had talks with at least 2 other notable wrestling promotions, but Ring of Honor wasn't among them. That's not because the CW doesn't see ROH as notable, but rather it's because Tony Khan does not want to entertain any possible TV deals for Ring of Honor until the right time. Khan is waiting for AEW's TV rights to be up for renewal before he starts looking for a TV home for ROH, and it's possible that he wants AEW and ROH to be broadcast on the same network. While Khan politely declined the CW's offer to talk, a source told House of Wrestling that Khan found the CW executive pleasant and someone he enjoyed visiting, but now is not the right time. Could the CW network become the home of Ring of Honor eventually? It's possible, but for now, Khan is happy to wait until what he considers the right time to talk business. It's been close to 2 years since Khan announced his purchase of Ring of Honor in March 2022, and since then, the company president has worked hard to re-establish the historic promotion. This hasn't been easy, especially given ROH's notable lack of a TV deal, and the former owner of Ring of Honor, Kerry Silkin, has spoken out against Khan's management. Speaking with the insiders, Silkin suggested that Khan's product simply isn't gelling, something that ROH was able to do even during its most difficult years. He said, "It's still alive today, but it doesn't have, even in the worst of times, my Ring of Honor, even in the worst of times, the Sinclair Ring of Honor, there was like, we're all in this together, kind of. It was a family, the fans are family. And I like Tony Khan, and he's a good guy, and he's got so much on his plate that I just think the current Ring of Honor is, I can't come up with the right words. And maybe I'm sour grapes a little, but it's not gelled together properly." This is quite the indictment from Silkin, who has previously kept quiet about Khan's take on Ring of Honor, and we'll have to see whether changes can be made to make ROH gel like it once did. From the moment CM Punk's AEW career ended, there has been speculation as to where he'll go next, especially since a return to WWE at Survivor Series is seemingly not the plan. The NWA and Impact Wrestling have both made it clear Punk would be welcome on their respective rosters, but could the best in the world's future reside in New Japan Pro Wrestling? Sitting down with Fightful, New Japan star and brand ambassador Rocky Romero was asked about Punk, and while he didn't guarantee it, he said you couldn't count the idea of him joining out. "You never know. I think that obviously we really didn't get to do many crossovers when Punk was with AEW. There was supposed to be that Tanahashi-Punk match that never happened, so I think Punk coming and doing a Wrestle Kingdom or a big show like that could be great for our product. Obviously getting fresh eyes and everything that he brings to it, merchandise and everything else, so I wouldn't be opposed to it at all. I know Tony pretty well. I feel like I would probably give him the heads up like, hey, this is what's going on, but I don't think he would have much to say about it. I mean, obviously it's another company. He doesn't own New Japan, and obviously, even though we have a great partnership, I think it's fine. I think he'd be cool. I think he'd be cool with it. I think AEW would be cool with it, you know? I don't think so. I think it'd be cool." If Punk were to join New Japan, then he'd be available for Forbidden Door shows that would see him work with AEW again, which would likely cause serious issues with those in the All Elite company. Punk's last match in Japan was part of a WWE house show in December 2011, which saw him defeat Alberto Del Rio, and could he compete in the country again? As Romero said, you never know. With the SAG-AFTRA strike coming to an end, it's believed that John Cena will be returning to Hollywood soon enough to continue the many projects he was working on before the strike. Cena has become quite the notable name on the silver screen thanks to his roles in the Suicide Squad and the Fast and Furious series, but John's acting career has recently faced a setback. The Hollywood Reporter has learned that Warner Brothers has decided not to move forward with the Coyote vs. Acme film that Cena had been set to star in, despite filming wrapping up last year. In a statement, a Warner Brothers spokesperson said that this was a difficult decision brought on by a shift in the company's global strategy, and we imagine Cena isn't thrilled about this update at all. Whatever Cena's future holds in Hollywood, it's clear that his wrestling career is winding down, with John even teasing retirement after his loss to Solo Sikoa at Crown Jewel. We know that Cena's recent stint with WWE will be ending soon, but it may not happen before John addresses fans one last time. According to reports, there have been tentative plans for Cena to address fans on tonight's episode of Smackdown, but nothing has been locked down for him at this time. The belief within WWE is that while the company would love to squeeze one last appearance from him, John may want to get back to Hollywood immediately now the strike is over. This desire to go back isn't out of any disregard for WWE, but rather because John realizes how tough things have been for staff who couldn't work due to the strike and wants to make up for lost time. Whether Cena is on tonight's SmackDown, time will tell, but after the heartbreaking loss he suffered in Riyadh last week, there are some huge questions as to what's to come for the greatest of all time. And we're ending today with Matt Riddle, who was one of the biggest names released from WWE in September, and fans are curious as to what he does next. Due to his 90-day non-compete clause, Riddle can't compete or appear for another promotion until December 20th at the very earliest, but that doesn't mean he can't earn a living. On Twitter, Riddle shared a couple of flattering pictures and dropped a hashtag for OnlyFans, seemingly gauging if there's interest in him appearing on the platform. OnlyFans and similar platforms have certainly been successful for some wrestlers, with Mandy Rose infamously making over $1 million within weeks of her WWE exit last year. As for In the Ring, we know that Riddle will face RVD at the Big Time Wrestling event in March 2024, but we could be seeing much more of Riddle before that show in Chillicothe, Ohio.